on to our faculty senate meeting for November. We will have a busy schedule, so I'm going to jump right in and say, can we get an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Okay,
I'll
Kevin
second.
and Ezra are first and second. Is anyone opposed? All right, hearing none, the agenda is approved. Let's move on to the approval of the October meeting minutes, which were sent out. Does anybody need them pulled up? Do we have a motion for approval of the minutes of October?
So moved.
I second.
And thank you. All right. Does anyone have any objections? Hearing none, the meeting minutes for October are approved, which allows us to move on to President Stokes' report.
Good afternoon, everybody. It does look like you have a full agenda. I will try to keep my report brief and just give you a couple updates since we last met on October 28th. I wanted to let you know that UNM has released its first comprehensive sustainability plan. And if you search for it on UNM's website, put in sustainability, you can easily find it as a 5-year roadmap to reduce our environmental footprint and deepen a culture of sustainability across campus. So we had Executive Council had a presentation about this yesterday morning, and it's very well received. A lot of wonderful plans laid out over the 5-year period. So for those with an interest, I'd say go look at that. It's really some great work that's been done to get to this point for the university. We also have announced a $1 million gift from Jim and Ellen King to support the Lobo Motorsports Formula SAE program. It also celebrates the legacy of the founder, John Russell, who is retiring in May as a professor of engineering. We've also cultivated some collaborations with our tribal communities. It's Native American Heritage Month, so it's a good time to talk about that. But wanted to mention that there's a partnership with Navajo Technical University to expand nursing education for students in rural and tribal regions. And our Earth Data Analysis Center is working closely with the Navajo Department of Transportation to develop a customized web-based portal that will help improve rural mobility and long-term planning. I also want to mention the work done by Sarah Hernandez, who's an associate professor of Native American literature, who received a $150,000 grant from the Henry Luce Foundation's Indigenous Knowledge Initiative to publish the first anthology of Dakota, Nakota, and Lakota literature together in one volume. Since I last saw you, we celebrated the announcement that Mark Emmons, our professor and dean of University Libraries and Learning Sciences, was named the 2025 New Mexico Academic Librarian of the Year by the New Mexico Consortium of Academic Libraries. So that's nice recognition for UNM and for him. We've honored 6 UNM Health Sciences researchers in the 17th Annual Excellence in Research Awards that took place on November 5th. We announced that the University of New Mexico Sandoval Regional Medical Center is inviting patients and families to help shape the future through something new that they've created, a patient family advisory committee. So a nice step for them. And we've issued guidance, keeping track of all the federal changes. Again, I'm just grateful for the leaders that are staying on top of the many different regulations that are coming our way at the federal level. And this was specific to the H-1B visa sponsorship. You could find it on my website under the 2025 federal guidance. I would say the main takeaway from it is that charge of $100,000 does not apply when an employer files an H-1B petition for a change of status within the U.S. or change of an employer within the U.S. So there are some guidelines for that for departments working with our colleges, but so anyway, there's a lot more clarity now about what this means. We have appointed a new university controller. Andrew Jacobson is a Lobo alum who will be joining us in January. He's been at CNM, where he currently serves as an associate vice president of finance and budget. So I know that was a search that our Teresa Costandinides and our EVP for finance had really been working on for some time. So we finally have a good resolution to this very important position overseeing finances at the institution. You might have heard that our men's and women's cross-country teams swept the Mountain West Championships, and more than that, they fared extremely well at the NCAA tournament that took place in Columbia, Missouri this past weekend. So we had Samuel, our cross-country runner, just won top awards. Our men's team was runner-up, coming in second in the country. Our women's team came in fourth in the country for cross-country. So we are the only institution in the country that had both men's and women's teams on the podium, because the top four were on the podium to receive their awards. So it's pretty incredible. And our coach won Coach of the Year, Darren Gosson. So I actually love going to cross-country track and field, indoor, outdoor track and field events. It's we do a pretty spectacular job at UNM. We have great teams, and this is I think the best ever. The final home football game is coming up this Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. So I hope that you've seen that Lobo Athletics is making free tickets, 4 free tickets available for every faculty and staff member. And you can find the link if you go to my PWP, my weekly perspective yesterday. There's a link in there to how you get those if you'd like to. We're trying to encourage everybody to show up. It's a very, very big game for our football team, playing San Diego State, ranked number 1 currently in the Mountain West. And UNM has really not been in this position in decades to be doing so well. Finals week comes up December 8th, runs through the 13th. A lot going on there. We know what the campus is like during this time. For those who've been around for a while, we know how much stress some of our students are under. I know we'll be doing a late night breakfast right before finals start. We call it late night, but we actually don't. I've been at universities that truly did it at 11 and 12 o'clock at night, and we don't. We do it earlier in the evening, so they really do have some time to eat some breakfast, a late night breakfast, and study. But I always look forward to being at that event. And of course, commencement, we've again divided up the graduate and undergraduate commencements. And so Thursday, December 11th will be our graduate students commencement, and Friday, December 12th will be the undergraduate commencements. And really appreciate all that Nancy Middlebrook does, that team, to put all of this together every December and May. So looking forward to seeing our students graduate on those days. I recently attended a briefing on the reimagining of UNM South Campus. Many of you are aware that we have this tax increment development district. We have a lot going on, and we're really looking at University Stadium and really the district around our science facilities there. And I'm really anxious to see what comes forward. We'll get more information next month related to what the consultants, we have planning money from the governor's office that we're using to really assess what this could look like moving forward. So I'm excited to see what that could look like. I think you're all aware the president's search committee is underway. The search committee is named. There were some listening sessions. I'm sure some of you may have participated in those sessions, and grateful for those who chose to do that. I think the search committee will be meeting soon, and there's a proposed timeline. You can find some information if you want to put in. I think there's still the opportunity to go to the link and put in information about what they should be looking for in the next president. And then I wanted to let you know that, I brought up to the faculty senate earlier that I was trying to figure out my strategy or the university strategy for the provost search. I do want to let you know that I intend to move forward with the provost search. And we'll be putting together, I will work with the firm that is actually doing the president's search so things can stay aligned. And we'll be starting to put together that search committee so that we can get this search launched in early next year, so that it's timed in such a way so that the next president has the ability to actually make the decision, but we get the process and all of the input from campus done, because as the search consultant that I talked to said, faculty and leaders at universities really do know what to look for in a provost. And so, I think we'll put the next president in a better position if we can go ahead and have it to the point where the next president is able to make the decision about finalists for the provost search. So I wanted to be sure and just let you know that. I think people have been talking some about it. And so wanted to let you know that I have decided to move forward. And that's really all I have today. I'm happy to take any questions. I know we don't have the provost report today, so, so I guess it's just me.
All right, we can open it up to questions. Does anyone have any questions?
Oh, Nancy, thank you for putting that sustainability report up in the chat. Thank you. Really is very good. And yeah, go Sarah.
All
Okay.
right, are you sure you have no questions?
That's okay. There's so many things to be discussed on this agenda. I think there'll be lots of things to talk about related to some of these other things. Thank you all. Appreciate you.
All
Have a
right.
wonderful short week for those who have a short week.
Thank you. Since we do not have a provost report, she is out this week. We'll go on to my brief comments, which because of the agenda, I'm keeping really brief. So the first thing I want to tell everybody is I'm glad that the president mentioned the Sustainability Advisory Council, because the only slot they have opened that's not filled right now is a representative from the Faculty Senate. So if you care about sustainability and these issues, please reach out to me and copy Nancy. We need to get someone from Faculty Senate that is willing to be on that advisory council. I also wanted to basically say briefly that in our current national environment in which higher education is operating, there's a lot of people that have concerns. So across the country, faculty in many states really are confronting challenges to their academic freedom, to freedom of speech and their expression, and those conditions really do directly affect the teaching, the research, and scholarly debate. But the good news about this is that here in New Mexico, and especially at UNM, we're fortunate, in my opinion, to have leadership that consistently supports faculty rights, open inquiry, and gives us the stability that we need to do our work and to flourish even in difficult times. Their advocacy, I believe, makes a meaningful difference. as we proceed today, I hope we keep in mind the value of sustaining these strong and collaborative relationships. We need institutions that support each other, and I think we do that best when we do it together. And on a final and lighter note, because you know, being Buddhist and having this thing about saving all sentient beings, I want to say Gobble and Wobble have been officially pardoned. So that's 2 death sentences that were commuted. So I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving. And with that lighter note, I am going to move us on to the employee health insurance cost increases. And Kevin Stevenson, who's going to talk to us about this. And I've seen this report once, but I thought it was well done, and it's really important that you all hear about it. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Roberta. I appreciate it. It's good seeing y'all this afternoon. I appreciate you letting me take a little bit of time in your action-packed agenda. I have a handful of slides that I will share and want to hit on it. It's a couple of high points and leave some time for questions and discussion, really looking to start socializing what we're seeing in the health insurance space for the purposes of getting feedback and having some proactive dialogue before the spring when it comes time to settle on recommendations and decisions. So let's get going. Can you all see my screen okay? All right. So gonna hit on a couple of points today, look at our plan, what we're projecting into fiscal year 27, and then kind of float out a handful of different scenarios to look at managing some of the cost, and then finally looking at some additional scenarios around the contributions we make toward premiums. This is always a consistent topic of discussion, and so want to be able to include all of these in the conversations that we're having. And so to start, kind of quick kind of background on our health plan, we manage our own self-insured medical, prescription drug, and dental plans. What that means is we manage those plans themselves. So, as employees and their dependents go to the doctor, seek care, we get billed for those claims directly. We pay those claims and we collect premiums on a monthly basis from our employees and from UNM as revenue to pay those claims. And so we're not purchasing insurance on the open market. We're managing this ourselves internally. We set our premium levels annually based on what we're forecasting for for projected claims. And the premiums that we set are split between the university and employees, and we're governed by a state statute that kind of puts guardrails around the amount of those contributions. And this is important. We'll talk about this in a little bit because we get lots of questions, lots of advocacy around why can't we change this structure? Why can't we contribute more than, say, 80% for some of our lower paid employees? But state statute kind of prohibits us from paying more than 80% or less than 60% toward premiums. And so how we manage or navigate that is with the salary tier structure you can see kind of depicted here on the screen with contribution splits where employees pick up either 20%, 30%, or 40% of the cost of their premiums based on their salary level. The reason we're here talking about this in November is that big, bold fourth bullet, which is based on what we're seeing with claims year to date. We're projecting a premium increase into FY27, so this would be July 1 of 26, of nearly 16%. This is consistent with what we're seeing nationally across the state in our own healthcare market, and really the result of increasing in cost and the increase in utilization. And so not just are things getting more expensive, but people are also seeking and utilizing more care. And so as a result of the sizable increase we're projecting, want to begin looking at ways to manage that cost. And so I have a handful of scenarios that we are contemplating that I want to share for feedback, for discussion, for input, to really help us prioritize where this investment and some of these choices fall amidst, the many choices or priorities that we'll have to weigh as we get into the spring through the budget process. Okay. And so a couple slides here, and I'll share these with Teresa so she can send around because there's a lot of data here that we don't have time to dig into. But before we talk about potential changes to the plan, we do want to benchmark, like, how good is our plan? How do we compare to peers, to other organizations? And Albuquerque and New Mexico in general are a very unique healthcare market. And so when we look at healthcare benchmarking, we always start by looking locally. And so if we look at here a measure of actuarial value of our plan compared to other local organizations or kind of consortia across the state, you can see UNM's plan all the way on the far right, quite a bit more generous than our other local benchmarks, whether that's the state, the Retiree Healthcare Authority, the Public School Insurance Authority, other organizations across the state. So when we look locally, we're doing pretty well from a quality of the plan we offer perspective. If we broaden the scope of that and look nationally, we don't fare quite as well. If we look at the design of our plan, it's quite competitive. So the benefits that we offer are really on par with what we see nationally in higher education. However, we fall a bit short when we benchmark because we don't, as an employer, contribute as high a percentage toward premiums as many of our peers. And so when we will in a second get to looking at some of our premium contribution scenarios and ways of increasing that employer share toward our health benefits, one of the reasons we look at that is because this is a place where we don't fare as well compared to benchmarks. So while our plan is of a high quality and on par from a benefit standpoint with what we see nationally, it costs our employees more to access because UNM doesn't contribute as much toward premiums. So one of the things that we're beginning to look at, are ways of, managing that almost 16% projected premium increase. And starting this conversation early, there's still a little bit of uncertainty here. We don't know what the final projections will be. We also don't know how we'll fare in Santa Fe in the spring and how the state budget will come together. We don't yet know how compensation increases will look. But because this is a pretty sizable increase, we want to look at ways and then the impact of potentially bringing that premium increase down. So what we're showing here are a couple of options to change plan design and basically shift costs from the plan directly to employees that are utilizing care. And so these all reflect what would be increases to out-of-pocket costs for folks who are utilizing the health plan by way of changing deductibles, changing out-of-pocket maximums, some other options. And then you can see here the change in that actual actuarial value, or kind of the effect of making the plan less generous, and then the amount of savings that would be generated. And we'll see the impact of these on premiums in a summary here in a sec. But what we also want to look at is, what is the impact or the disruption to folks as a result of these possible plan design changes? And so if we look at the deductible increase as an example, we expect that would impact about 11% of our members, or about 1,600 folks. So we have about 15,000 members on the plan altogether. That includes employees and their dependents. So this would impact about 11% of folks. So we would be bringing premium increases down across the board, but in this case, those 1,600 folks that are utilizing more care would see an increase in their out-of-pocket costs. Similarly, if we look at out-of-pocket maximums, we have fewer employees that are hitting their overall maximum, but by increasing that, we would expect to see that to impact about 4% of our members, a few more than 600 individuals. And so as we think about kind of prioritizing and evaluating these options, want to look at the cost savings that this generates to the plan, which then manifests in lower premium increases for our employees. But then compare that to, the impact to individual people who are utilizing more of the health benefit and would see that increase in out-of-pocket costs. What we want to look at here, one of the big drivers that we're seeing kind of influence the increases in cost we've seen over the past couple of years, as well as what we're projecting, are really in the pharmacy drug space. And so one of the big drivers, and you can see here on this chart, some of our biggest contributors to pharmacy spending. And we have, you can see our kind of cancer spend in that yellow dotted line. These are monthly expenses, so kind of expense from the plan each month over the last 2 years. And what I want to focus on here is that kind of magenta-ish line that starts pretty low back in June 23rd and by now is kind of jumping up and off the page. And this is the cost trend we're seeing for our GLP-1 drugs being used for anti-obesity or used for weight loss. We've seen incredible increases in utilization and cost for these drugs. They're more than 10% of our overall pharmacy spend. And just over the last 2 years, we can see that our number of utilizers doubled, but our costs tripled. And so we're seeing huge increases in this space. And again, when you look and read what's going on nationally, we're not alone or immune to this. It's something lots of folks are grappling with, and so something we want to be looking at as well. If we look at a little bit of benchmarking in the GLP-1 space, we see many plans in the marketplace kind of initially taking a wait and see approach to see we can keep covering these. The weight loss for our employees ought to be good. That ought to lead to longer term ROI. It should reduce and impact comorbidities and other kind of ancillary things as a result of obesity. Like, this should be good. And what we've seen over the past couple of years in particular is as the cost of these drugs has continued to grow, we've seen organizations pull back their coverage. And so if we look, CUPA HR, which is a university professional association that does benchmarking across higher ed, we've seen over the past couple of years now only about a third of PPO plans in higher ed are covering, in public higher ed covering these GLP-1s for anti-obesity. We see about half of public sector organizations are covering them. And so because of the cost, we're starting to see that coverage change. And so it's something we want to evaluate and make sure that we're making the best decisions and prioritizing things appropriately for our employees and their dependents. With that, wanted to evaluate a couple of different approaches to our GLP-1 for anti-obesity purposes. And so this table lays out a couple different scenarios where we can see the projected cost of these drugs in FY27, and then a couple of options to try to manage that cost. So scenario 1 at the top, or scenario A, shows no change. We would expect about $10.5 million of gross expense, about $6.5 million of net cost to the plan. So if we went kind of swung the pendulum in the other direction, eliminated that coverage altogether, we generate almost $6 million of savings to the plan, but that would impact nearly 1,000 folks who we would expect to be taking these drugs by fiscal 27. Option C is something that we're looking at to strike kind of a middle ground where we would continue coverage, but but in order to be eligible, require individuals to engage in a coaching support program to help make some of the lifestyle changes necessary that, to keep weight off when people transition off of these drugs, to help manage some of the side effects such as muscle loss or other things that can happen as a result of taking these. And so, considering that as maybe a nice middle ground to provide the benefit to folks where it'll be positively impactful, but also trying to support our employees with wraparound services and support to make the weight loss that they might be seeing with these drugs sustainable and positive. And you can see different cost projections and kind of membership impacts here. So if we, just as a kind of an example, look at the dollar impact of what we're seeing as a baseline, and then the impact to our premiums of a couple of these plan design changes. If we made the deductible increase, made the out-of-pocket maximum increase, and took that middle of the road GLP-1 scenario, you could see we could drop our premium increases from almost 16 to about 11 and a half. So still big numbers, but beginning to mitigate some of that increase. And so again, these are some of the things we're looking for input and dialogue feedback on. Lastly, and then I'll stop for questions. One of the things that we've been talking about for a while, this is discussed in Faculty Staff Benefits Committee pretty frequently, are what are ways that UNM could approach improving our contributions to individual health insurance premiums to help us catch up to what we're seeing when we benchmark nationally. And so have a summary slide with all of these on here for the sake of time. So modeled out a variety of different scenarios that going to do two different things. Scenario 1 and 2 look at, we have these state restrictions that say we can't contribute less than 60% or more than 80% to premiums. But what if we move the lines in the sand around between those guardrails? And could we be a little bit more generous and increase the amount we're contributing to premiums for some folks to help manage their cost? And so in scenarios 1 and 2, you can see kind of a brief description of what would change, the number of employees that would be impacted, the cost, and then the cost of this with the overall increased projection. Scenario 3 and 4, things we've looked at, again, kind of specifically based on conversations with Faculty Staff Benefits Committee, looking at what if we took the approach of advocating with the state to change those rules and remove that 80% threshold to allow us to contribute more than 80%. And so say scenario 3, if we were successful and made the decision to go kind of all in supporting our lowest paid employees, what if we were able to pick up 100% of premiums for folks making $55,000 and below in that lowest tier? What would that look like from an impact and cost standpoint? Similarly, if we were able to remove that 80% threshold and looked at just increasing the contribution by 10% for everybody, what would that look like? And, in terms of impact to people, the impact to our overall contribution and then cost. And so again, trying to look at all of these things kind of holistically as we get into the spring to see how do we prioritize where we're focusing, what we're investing in. And when it comes time to make recommendations for premium levels and any plan design changes, ensuring that we've shared what we're thinking and what we're looking at with our stakeholders and constituents and employees so that, we can hear feedback and perspectives to help inform how we prioritize things and what we want to recommend. So thank you for indulging me through the kind of lengthy presentation there. I'll stop now and answer any questions.
All right. So one of the so there are some questions that are already in the chat for you, and since I have the floor, I will start with the one that always kind of bothers me. I really have a problem when we're paternalistic with patients. I never thought it was appropriate. Back in the old days of bypass surgery, they did the same thing to patients, and what they found out was after the studies, all patients did better having had the process. That what the goal is to decrease obesity. Putting roadblocks in the way to people doesn't seem like it's meant to consider the good of the patient. It's just about the bottom line and saving money, and their health be damned. So, and I don't get my health care through you, and I don't pay. I don't have UNM insurance, so it doesn't. The cost doesn't impact me. So I'll preface it with that. But what I didn't see in here was the cost savings, although you mentioned it briefly. The cost savings long term, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road for people, especially with hypertension and diabetes, that now will not have some of the really nasty outcomes. I mean, I don't know what a GLP costs compared to a triple bypass. I don't know what a GLP costs compared to a leg amputation. So it would help if somebody tried to address some of those things. And then you have a whole boatload of questions. So I assume you can see the chat.
I can. And so thank you for that. And I do, this is the reason we're sharing all of these ideas, and we're not recommending any of them or wed to any of them, really putting out an array of choices to hear feedback just like this. We're in many ways, the jury is still out on the long-term kind of ROI or impact as a result of these drugs. Some of that's because their use for anti-obesity, not looking at diabetes care at all. The numbers and proposals we're talking about here wouldn't impact the coverage we provide for GLP-1s for diabetic care. But there's not kind of enough of a runway to see what that longer term outcome or ROI is. There have been some papers that have started to come out modeling what would the cost of these drugs have to fall to in order to see positive outcomes, either in cost savings or health improvements long term. But there's not a huge amount of data yet or research, which, and we've heard this in other venues, is like a reason to wait and keep covering them and see, get further enough down the road to see what longer term benefits manifest as a result of enabling folks to lose and keep off weight. And so that, is something that's certainly top of mind and that we're looking at carefully and partnering with our benefits consultant to try to understand as much as we can about that landscape. And so that's kind of, where we are now in the thinking of it, but really appreciate the perspectives and feedback.
Go ahead, Melissa.
So I kind of want to raise the issue about the GLP-1s from a little bit different angle in that I just want to ask the question of if we start saying that something isn't covered, how is that prevented from being a precedent for other things? And I know this is a complex issue. I'm not going to pretend like it isn't, but I guess I want to know in the future, like, who gets to decide what my healthcare will cover and, how are those decisions being made? So I just want to raise that issue.
Thank you. I think if I'm maybe running through the chat and some of those questions, and thank you for all of these. Maybe I would say one of the other unique things about these medications um, is that they're available to folks on outside of the plan for much lower cost than what we pay on the plan. It costs UNM 16 or $1,700 a month for like a Wegovy or Ozempic prescription. When folks are able to, particularly with some of the price reduction agreements that we saw the federal government enter into a couple of weeks ago, that are reducing that direct to sale cost, direct to consumers. And so this is also kind of unique in the prescription drug space where there are options outside of the plan. And again, not saying that that's ideal or the way to go, but as we think about the whole landscape and balancing all of the trade-offs, is another complexity or wrinkle in this particular for this particular topic.
Michelle, go ahead.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, yeah. So, and I guess maybe for folks, I feel like folks know this, right? But like in general, out of pocket, I believe they're around like $1,200 for like a month's worth, which is like 4 shots. And then most insurances right now are saying that you have to have comorbidity. So it's not simply being obese, but you also have to have something like diabetes or neuropathy or immobility, some other kinds of morbidities that coincide with the obesity in order to get it covered fully by your insurance. And then if it's only covered partially because you're opting in for weight loss, then it's more like $200 or $300 or something like that per monthly dose. But and I'm not sure if it varies by brand. I think somebody was asking that. That's just like anecdotal, like what I know from talking to people who use it. But I think what I would like to raise to the Senate body is just this focus on the weight loss medications as our potential solution. And I feel like, and I'm sorry, Kevin, but I do feel like that focus actually shifts away from what's really happening, which was underscored by Kevin's alliteration by the big bold bullet on that first slide, right? So this is not because people are using weight loss medication. This is because things are happening within our national legislation, our legislators. So I think that that's the issue. That's how I'm understanding it, at least. And then I understand that your office is working to try to figure out how to manage it. But this is a direct result of what we know just recently took place with the government shutdown and everything like that. So I would be careful for us just focusing on the obesity issue and instead recognizing that this is an attack on our most vulnerable faculty at our institution, people who have health issues or needs, and people who are overweight, which are, often women of color, people who look like me. So this is very, very disturbing. And I do think it's something we need to come together and take to the state, but also recognize that what it's asking is for UNM to take on the burden of a national bill.
I don't know if you have a response to that, Kevin, or.
And I would say that I appreciate kind of the redirection toward the overall premium increase. We are seeing incredible increases in cost and in utilization. And one option, and maybe the best and totally appropriate option, is to leave the plan alone, without reducing or addressing benefits. One of the things that we wanted to do and appreciate the discussion, this is the purpose of coming, is to hear feedback and perspectives, is to see if an increase, in the neighborhood of 16% when we come to the spring is not palatable, what options exist to address that. But really, more than anything, looking at an array of choices to get feedback and hear folks' priorities. So I really appreciate all of the perspectives.
Does anyone else have perspectives or feedback, especially as it related to the 4 options?
I'm Roberta, if I may.
Yes.
I'll just say I really appreciate, Kevin, you coming and presenting this information at the Faculty Senate, because I appreciate the transparency that your presentation brings, because sometimes in the past it feels like some of these decisions aren't as transparent to faculty. So I appreciate the information gathering. I'm also just wondering so Mike Poole, our government relations person, is he, do you know if has listed this as a priority to discuss with New Mexico legislators, either, moving those tiers or increasing the percentage of the cost that UNM might be able to cover for faculty at those different tiers?
Yes, and so thank you, Chris. I appreciate your comments. And so specifically with the salary tier premium contribution item, we have seen a shift over the past couple of years across the state where changes have been made in other spaces with K-12, with state employees. And so I think there is a recognition, and Mike Pooley, our government relations person, and I talk about this often. I think there is a recognition of the need to be able to cover more than 80%. What we're kind of with where we are now, coming into a short 30-day legislative session this spring, and 30-day sessions in New Mexico are limited to budget matters. From a strategy perspective, we think the best approach would be waiting for the 2027 full 60-day session, because this would be more of a policy matter. But that there probably would be openness and support for doing this. On the policy side, what I think we're less optimistic about is that the state would provide funding for us to increase those contribution levels. And so want to, they think having that ceiling kind of removed gives us additional flexibility to make decisions we think are in the best interest of our employees. So that's a good thing, even absent additional state funding. But that's kind of the approach and thinking that we've been engaged in to try to move the needle on this.
That's really helpful to hear you distinguish between the 30-day and the 60-day legislative session, and how that might inform what we're possibly able to do as an institution. Thanks.
So, like I said, there are a lot of comments in the chat. The last one's, why are we focusing specifically on GLP-1s and not other high expensive care, cancer, HIV, hospitalization, surgery, etc.? Are we targeting GLP-1s specifically because while we don't want to cut anything, at least the GLP-1s, there is another funding mechanism that can be used for patients to access these medications?
Yeah, that's a great question. Oh, and I'm sorry, Robert, I didn't mean to.
No,
I
no,
didn't.
I was going to just say it's a good question.
And I'll display my ignorance from maybe a protocol or, Robert's rules perspective. I don't know if the preference is, I can run through and answer questions in the chat. I know, like, I think I'm over time already. I can respond to these like via email after. I don't know what your preference is.
Um, Actually, if you want to respond to them, afterwards, maybe with something that's just general, we could send out to everybody. That would probably be great. I think I echo what Chris said, that the level of transparency is impressive, and we appreciate that. Um, and we know that there's going to be increases, and we know that it's going to impact faculty. So I'm really grateful you came so quickly, because if you know something's coming at you 6 months down the road, you have some time to plan for it. So it's nice faculty are hearing about this in advance and not at the last minute. So, but yeah, if you can just provide us some answers, I think it would help. And as I told President Stokes, I think the more town hall-ish type things you do for all faculty related to this, the better it'll help them to prepare, because there's going to be an increase one way or the other. The cost is not going down, it's going up substantially. So helping people to prepare is one of the best things we can do. So at least they can be heard, you can get their input as you're making the decisions on which of those 4 options you choose.
Absolutely.
And so people are putting all kinds of comments in here for you. But we are over time, and I don't want it to be just like we're all piling on you, because we know this isn't your fault, but nonetheless, I appreciate your time. Thank you for doing this so quickly for us, because we ask at the last minute. So I appreciate it.
Very happy to, and as long as someone, Teresa, I'm gonna ask for your help. If you can get me all of the
I will do that.
I'll send back, and we can keep the conversation going. This isn't a one and done exercise. So thank you, Roberta, for having me. I appreciate everybody for your time and thoughtful comments and questions, and looking forward to continuing the dialogue about this. And have a happy Thanksgiving. I can't end on as high a note as Roberta did earlier, so I'll quit.
Thank you. So we need to move on to the consent agenda. There are 2 things on the consent agenda. I believe we can vote on them together. So one is curricular changes and the fall 2025 degree candidates. And the curricular changes we're voting on are the simple, straightforward ones. There's a different discussion about the social work degree here in just a minute. So can I get
We're going to launch a poll here in just a second.
Yep.
We have to have the motion though first.
I'm waiting. So do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
And a second?
I second.
All right. We will launch a poll if everyone will answer a poll, unless there's discussion. Yeah, there's usually not on these, but thank you. Okay, Teresa, do we have all the votes?
I actually launched the poll and it looks like we do. I think we've got them pretty much all in, and it looks like we have 2 abstentions and everyone else approved.
Okay, so the motion passes. The consent agenda is approved. The next thing is there are two policy items for approval. One is FH policy E110, conflict of interest in research. And I don't know if everybody had time to review these or has any questions about them. The one thing I will tell you is that the conflict of interest in research was one that had to be done to align with federal guidelines. So there was no real, in fact, most of this is. All right. So do we vote on these separately or?
Yes, we have a separate poll for each, so we'll need a motion for each.
Do we have a motion to approve E110?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, give us the poll. There we go.
I think you're muted, Nancy, but we're at 88% yes and 13% abstained.
Okay, so this one also passes. The next one, I don't know if anybody from the policy committee wants to speak to this. Policy A63.5, Information Technology Committee.
I can talk about that from policy committee who approved, but if there is information technology committee, we can talk too, but it was more two essentially minor changes about a number of committee members. So this is nothing crucial.
Okay. All right, can we get a motion to approve?
I will move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All right. Hearing none, can we get the poll?
And Roberta, it looks like we have 79% that approved. Oh, it went down to 77 and 9 that abstained. So 39%, but no votes.
All right, this policy is approved. And moving right along, now we get to fun stuff. The new Master of Social Work degree program. And I saw Shelley, but I'm not sure who's presenting this. So
Jen Panhorse. Thank you, Dr. Lavin, but I will be happy to answer questions after her presentation as well.
okay, I'll turn it over to you, Jen.
Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen here to share just a few slides. I will keep things brief in the respect of everyone's time. For background on this Master of Social Work program, the university applied to responded to an RFP from Higher Ed for social work endowment funds. And that was awarded in June 2023, and the first disbursement was in September 2024. So these are already allocated funds. There's no new expenditures that are being requested associated with this, and it ensures budget neutrality. This is an important step for the state as a whole, because we are the only university, state university that lacks a social work program. And so we're really in a unique position to fill the gap, given that we have the teaching hospital. And this also dovetails nicely with the university's focus on doubling the healthcare workforce for the state. Or doubling the healthcare graduates from the university. Sorry, I don't want to make our goals too ambitious there. So what we're proposing is a 2-year program that is going to be in the School of Medicine, Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences. This is going to be learning that's largely done in person after 5 p.m., which will allow for students who have outside employment, as well as the internships or practicums that they need to complete as part of the program, as well as ensuring that we are, maximally using the existing space at the university already. So admissions will be in both fall and spring. And since we will be on the health sciences campus, there'll be lots of interdisciplinary learning opportunities there. Although we do have letters of support from our friends on Central Campus in both the counseling and psychology programs. And so we're looking forward to collaborating with them as well. We will have 2 concentration tracks to start the program, and I will talk about those briefly in a moment. But we will have clinical social work and medical social work. And I really want to highlight the medical social work because this is going to be a unique offering for the state. The closest universities that have a medical social work program are over 600 miles away. And so this is really, and given the teaching hospital, we're really uniquely positioned to offer this. So the first year has 30 credits that all students will be taking together. The second year is an advanced practice year where they will have 15 required credits that they take as one cohort, but then 15 credits in their chosen concentration that you see here. And so, and I just wanted to illustrate this because there was a little confusion about this in the curricular committee when we were with them the other week. So we currently are in progress with the Council of Social Work Education accreditation process. We spent most of the year on these first couple of steps. And, benchmark 1 is what the CSWE refers to as the self-study. And we did get that, got staff approval on that from the CSWE. So we are now in what's called pre-candidacy, which means that we are now preparing for a site visit in the spring. So this is just really critical milestone for us towards full accreditation. And what it also means is that as far as CSWE is concerned, we can have students start as soon as fall 2026. But we do need a few more approvals before we can go live with an admissions process, which includes getting approval from the Faculty Senate. And so, we really see this as a key partnership step that ensures alignment with the accreditation progress and also supports having timely enrollment into this program. And, I'm sure as many of you are aware, we've got some very serious workforce shortages in healthcare in the state. And we really appreciate your collaboration on us addressing that. So I know I went through this rather quickly, and you also have the, I believe you have the pre-proposal executive summary in front of you all. But I'm happy to take any questions. And as Dean McLaughlin indicated, she's also here in support of this and can answer questions as well, since she's been involved with this from the beginning with that RFP.
Are there questions? Do you know how many students you're hoping to have?
We are hoping to have our first cohort in fall 26 be 15 to 20 students.
I had a question, Roberta.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious what kind of undergraduate preparation the students applying to this program will need to have. Like, is any bachelor's degree sufficient, or are there specific kind of undergraduate tracks that we're going to need to be preparing students in to be students in this master's program?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are, it's pretty common for folks to be able to pursue an MSW without having a bachelor's in social work. They just need to have adequate, social science and humanities credits. And so we have drafted I would say a relatively long list of acceptable majors or courses that would be accepted in order to be admitted to the MSW program. We will, in a later stage, have a 1-year advanced standing option in the program for individuals who have a bachelor's in social work. But there are plenty of majors and areas of study within UNM already that would be adequate for applying for the MSW program.
Great, thanks so much.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a question in the chat that since UNM doesn't have a BSW, given that many undergraduates stay to pursue graduate work at UNM?
Yeah, correct. So, right, a BSW will not be required. If we do see a need at a later point, we can start developing a BSW program. But for now, we're going to start off with an MSW program, since that is the the terminal degree and license for therapeutic practice in the state. The ramifications of the Department of Education reclassifying nursing and education and social work as well, I would say, as non-professional. So that will affect the total number of loans that they can take out to support their education. I did reach out to my team about this on Friday when that news broke, and we're trying to explore a lot of ways already that we can make sure that students are being, paid for their practicum or internship experiences, that they have funding opportunities and scholarships. But this is something else that we're going to be exploring when we're all back next week in terms of making sure that we can do everything possible to offset that change at the federal level.
Yeah, and I will say, at least from the nursing perspective, the big issue with that is it's already a more expensive degree than most degrees on campus. And now they've limited the amount of student loans. So most students won't be able to take out sufficient loans to pay for the degree now. So
Yeah.
It's going to have an impact on enrollment. And it was just really short-sighted, but there you go.
And
the short comment that how important they are in pregnancy clinics with people that are at high risk. And then can you clarify, what do partnerships and letters of support with existing departments entail?
So the letters of support that we have from counseling and psychology are outlining that we do not have duplication amongst our programs, because we have different accreditation processes, we have different licenses, we have different codes of ethics, etc. And they were just expressing as well that they are very supportive of us developing this program as an expansion of healthcare degrees that are available at the university.
Thank you. Other questions?
So Tamika, in terms of the number of faculty, by the start of fall 2026, we're expecting to have 3. And that is we will need to end the accreditation process with 4 full-time. But how much bigger it gets beyond that will depend greatly on the overall interest and number of students in terms of making sure that we're staying with the accreditation student faculty ratio of 12:1.
All right. Are there any other questions? All right, hearing none, can we get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, and I saw Lewis and Ken. All right, any further discussion? All right, let's see if we can get a poll.
Okay, it seems to have slowed down, so it looks like we've got 89% that said yes and 11% that abstained. So
all right,
4 votes. No votes.
It passed. Yay. All right, moving right along to New Health Professions Educator Certificate Program. I'm not sure who's presenting that one.
I can take care of that, Dr. Lavin.
All right, thank you.
Of course. So I appreciate the opportunity to present this proposal to the Faculty Senate. As you, I'm sure, know, our College of Nursing transitioned from a post-bachelor's to MSN program to a post-bachelor's to Doctor of Nursing Practice program in the fall of 2023. During this transition, all of our master's programs, including the Master's in Nursing Education, were closed. The most recent American Association of Colleges of Nursing core competencies published in 2021 do not include specific competencies designated for an advanced practice nursing specialty in nursing education. Therefore, the College of Nursing elected to not develop a specialty track for the Doctor of Nursing Practice in nursing education. There is still a national shortage of nursing faculty, and unfortunately, it is getting worse. In 2020, there were over 1,500 faculty vacancies identified nationwide. In October of 2023, the American Association of Colleges of Nursing released a report on faculty vacancies, noting that there were 1,997 full-time faculty vacancies identified on a survey of 922 nursing schools. Most healthcare professionals enter into teaching as expert clinicians, but without any experience or formal education on how to teach. This proposed Health Professions Educator Certificate program provides current and future healthcare educators with the skills and tools to teach students in a healthcare program. It's a fully online, asynchronous program, which makes it feasible for both current graduate students and working healthcare professionals to complete the program. The goals of this program emphasize developing leadership, interprofessional collaboration, and advanced expertise in pharmacology, pathophysiology, and physical assessment to support that health educator role. They also focus on designing and evaluating evidence-based curricula and teaching strategies while integrating research findings and information technologies into educational practice. The courses in this program are based on courses that were previously taught in the College of Nursing Master's in Nursing Education program. The program is comprised of 4 courses. They are primarily standalone courses. 3 of the courses, one offers learners the opportunity to explore those advanced pathophysiology, pharmacology, and physical assessment concepts in a concept-based curriculum. And as a part of that course, the learners develop teaching plans that integrate all 3 components and then present the plans as they would present those within a course. One course focuses on theories and tools used by educators, and those include learning strategies, assessment or evaluation methods, and domains of learning. And then one course focuses on the role of the educator in a healthcare field, which includes educational design and program development. All three of those courses can be taken as standalone courses and electives. The final course, which completes the certificate program and cannot be taken as a standalone course, provides learners with the opportunity to practice teaching in various settings that are applicable to their specific healthcare field. The entire certificate program can be completed in 12 to 16 credits, depending on the learner's prior courses and their clinical background. And the number of credits that they would need would be identified using a gap analysis. That's the program in a nutshell, and I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Does anyone have any questions? All right, hearing none, can we get a motion?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Seconded.
That's two, Natalie and Lewis. And is there any further discussion? All right, I think we can get a poll.
Okay, and it looks like we're 89% is a yes, and we have about 11% that is abstained and 0 no votes. So,
All right, thank you. The motion is approved. So thank you for joining us and for presenting this.
Thank you very much for your time.
Oh, you're welcome. The next thing on our agenda is council reports, and we have 3 council reports. We'll start out with the HSC council report. Natalie?
Sorry, let me find my notes. Shoot, I just lost it. There it is. All right. Hi there. So I'm Natalie Adolfi. I'm the chair of the HSC Council. And for those of you who are not familiar with that body, the council, which meets monthly, consists of the faculty senators from HSC, plus 2 at-large members from each school or college from HSC. So this year, one of our action items was that we recently voted on and approved an amendment to our bylaws, which created term limits for the members of the HSC Policy Committee. In other sort of administrative news, we are still seeking someone to run for chair-elect. So if you are interested in being the chair-elect of the HSC Council, please let me know. This year, the HSC Council has discussed campus safety, a new policy platform that's being rolled out to HSC, and we got a preview of last week of the health benefits cost increase presentation, which is, of course, very interesting, and there were a lot of good comments coming from the HSC faculty on that presentation. So future discussion items are going to include how we can improve the planning of health sciences program graduation ceremonies, as well as the healthcare workforce expansion initiative, which of course involves a new building, which hopefully the legislature will grant us this winter, but also, you know, as was alluded to in some of the presentations today, growth in multiple education and training programs across HSC. So that's one of the things that we'll be talking about this year. And that concludes my report.
So I would like to put a plug in for the HSC Council Chair-elect. What you should know when you become chair is you will be taken over right as your health insurance premiums go up. And it comes with a stipend. So at least for 1 year, you could offset all those costs with the stipend you'll get for being the chair-elect. So just saying. Does anybody have any questions for Natalie? All right, hearing none, we're going to move on to the Branch Community College Council. And I think, Kristen, you're presenting.
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I've got some slides here to share. And is that showing up? Okay, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Christian Simcox. I'm Associate Professor of Philosophy at UNM Gallup and a faculty senator, and I serve on the Branch Community Colleges Council and co-chair it with my colleague from Valencia, Stephen Romero. In the plan today, I just wanted to begin by sort of introducing the branches generally, and then the Branch Community Colleges Council in particular to those of you who aren't familiar with the work we do. And then I'll turn to some of the priorities that we're working on in the council. So I'm going to start with just the branch campuses, who we are. So this is from the state statute that designates the branch campuses. So we are community colleges, which means that we offer the first 2 years of college education as well as vocational and technical curricula that would fit within a 2-year duration. And the significance of that, I'll come back to a little bit later on. We do offer a wide variety of programs at the various branches. This is a snapshot here from the Valencia campus, listing, at least fairly recently, the degrees and certificates offered at that campus. And I'll mention that there's a lot of overlap here, but each branch has their own set of programs as well. So we do offer associate degrees in arts and science. For example, liberal arts and science, that these are designed with potential transfer students in mind, right? So establishing sort of their first 2 years of general education before they would transfer to UNM Albuquerque or another institution, 4-year institution. We also offer associate's degrees that may lead to a transfer for a bachelor's, but can also enable employment. For example, we have an associate in elementary education that would allow somebody who earns that to begin employment as an educational assistant. And we also offer a number of associate's degrees. These are typically 2-year programs and certificates that are 1-year programs in areas like applied science, including like construction tech, auto tech, welding, and so on, and lots of other areas as well. I mean, health careers, criminal justice, cosmetology, and so on, right? So we do offer quite a wide variety of different programs. Our faculty, so our faculty ranks continue to grow. These numbers are from the Office of Institutional Analytics. Per OIA, there are currently 334 faculty across the branches, many full-time, many part-time. Most faculty have advanced degrees, including doctorate or otherwise terminal degrees. Teaching is the primary mission of our branch campus faculty, but many of us do also have demanding scholarly and service commitments that we need to balance with that mission. I'm going to turn here to some enrollment numbers, and I do want to offer a disclaimer that there are different ways that these enrollment numbers are calculated. Sometimes they refer to home students, right? This means that the student's primary enrollment is at that campus. Sometimes they include any student that takes a course at a branch campus. So we do actually teach quite a few students from the Albuquerque campus or campuses who take some of our courses because they are lower tuition. So they can save some money on their way to earning their 4-year degrees. I also want to talk briefly about some of the student demographics, and for the purposes of today's report, I'm focusing on some demographic breakdowns along lines of ethnicity. So these are our enrollments, Hispanic student enrollments across the branches, across all 4 branches. So the significance here, our branches do contribute to UNM Systems status as a Hispanic serving institution, a minority serving institution. UNM Gallup, at least, is also a Native American serving non-tribal institution. Now, there may be questions about whether these designations matter, right? What their significance is, for example, for federal funding, given the federal government is working to eliminate these designations. The HSI designation is still very important, as is being a member of the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities. The Taos campus, for example, receives leadership development, professional development, and other support from that organization. And there are still some HSI-related funds that cannot be revoked, specifically including some National Science Foundation STEM funds. So it does matter, right, to that end. I also think that along with the importance of funding, right, it's meaningful to be thoughtful about the communities we serve as we make decisions about our teaching and about the programs and services we offer. Here we have the enrollments of Native American students across the branch campuses per OIA. The Gallup branch serves over 1,200 Native American students. So the majority of those enrollments come from Gallup. So here's a quick snapshot. This is the Hispanic student profile at UNM Taos. The diversity is considerable. This is Valencia. This is a recent breakdown of student demographics at Valencia. And here's a quick snapshot from UNM Los Alamos, which also represents the diverse student population, the importance of close connection between faculty and students, right? The student to faculty ratio, the diversity of programs, and again, the affordability of the courses taken at the branches, the lower tuition. All right, I'm going to turn now to the introducing the Branch Community Colleges Council itself. And again, this is so named because the branch campuses are designated by statute as community colleges, offering 2-year programs. The council is made up of the faculty senators elected by each branch. So each branch elects 2 faculty senators who are automatically appointed to the Branch Community Colleges Council. You'll notice that Taos has a higher number there. They do things a little bit differently. So they have their 2 faculty senators, but their faculty council, their local shared governance body, also elects 2 faculty members to the BCCC. And a special shout out as well to our support staff, Teresa Sherman. Thank you for all the work you do for us. So here are some of the responsibilities that the BCCC has. And I'm going to focus on the last few there, ensuring that the Faculty Senate is aware of issues that are specific to the branch community colleges when we're making decisions that affect us, and bringing matters to the Senate that are specific to us, and that may warrant supportive action by the Senate, which we may be looking for down the line, right? And of course, actively championing, right, student success. Okay, so I'm going to turn now to a quick rundown of some of the priorities of the council and projects we're undertaking right now. So, ongoing project, getting our students college ready. We serve a number of, we're an open enrollment institution. All of the branches are. And so we do serve a lot of students who come to us perhaps underprepared. So we have to do the work to get our students, or help get our students college ready and able to flourish. So there are a couple of issues here. what more can we do to prepare our transfer students, for example, as they move on to UNM Albuquerque, right? So we're always welcoming more robust and more detailed feedback, tracking the success rates for the students who transfer from our campuses to the central campus, and we welcome qualitative feedback from UNM Albuquerque about what we're doing well and what we could do better. But in the same spirit of collaboration, we'd like to know what resources are in place for our transfer students once they get to AVQ, right? So, we want to work together as partners to ensure that all of our students do have an opportunity to flourish and that their unique needs are supported as they make their way onto their 4-year programs in Albuquerque. Expanding access to 4-year degrees. So this goes back to how the branch campuses are designated. We do not grant 4-year degrees. We grant 2-year degrees and certificates, associates and certificates. However, we do partner with schools and colleges on the Albuquerque campuses to provide opportunities to earn 4-year degrees while completing a lot of their coursework on the branches. So, for example, in nursing, at Gallup, we have a UNM partnership with the Bachelor's of Science in Nursing program, such that students in that program will graduate with an associate degree in nursing from UNM Gallup, and then a bachelor degree in nursing from UNM, right? But again, they're able to take a lot of their coursework here. We've recently developed a similar program in education, specifically special ed, to grow our workforce, right? Which we need, right? We need nurses, we need educators. But it's important to note that many students at the branches have families in their communities, are already working in the field in their communities, and are not in a position to pick up and move to Albuquerque, right? So we do want to be able to support our students in completing their coursework through, right, with the support of the branches in partnership with colleges and schools in Albuquerque. One of my colleagues mentioned that some of her students approached her recently to talk about the possibility of a degree in counseling. And so I think that would be really terrific. One other major project that we're working on expanding, or always working on expanding access to resources and opportunities, especially those available to our colleagues at UNM Albuquerque, but are not as easily accessible or available at all to branch campus faculty. So, for example, many of our faculty may be seeking advancement to managerial roles, right, chairs or deans. Some of us may be willing to accept those positions, even if we don't exactly desire them. Either way, we have a commitment to carrying out those roles as well as we can. So we'd like to know more about resources and training opportunities to support our advancement, leadership trainings specifically. Also support for teaching. Again, that's our primary mission. We've identified, for example, the Golden Paw certification in online teaching. This seems like a great resource, but at present, it is limited only to faculty on the Albuquerque campus. We'd like to see that or something like it made available to branch campus faculty. And one final thing I'll note here, another issue that is always certainly on the minds and a concern of branch campus faculty is pay equity. Most of us are covered by the CBA, which is negotiated by our faculty union, right, UA-UNM. Nevertheless, if we are able to identify areas where pay equity is lacking, we can support our faculty by bringing it to the attention of the Branch Community Colleges Council, branch faculty assemblies or councils, the faculty senate. So thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, I'm open to them, or you can reach out to me or my colleagues on the council.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? All right. If
Roberta, sorry.
Oh, go
if I
ahead.
may.
Yes.
Christian, thank you so much for your presentation. And I just wanted to say that I myself am a first-generation college student. I went to a community college my first year. So I know how important the work is that community colleges do. So I just wanted to give you and all of our colleagues at the branch campuses a shout out, especially the work that you all do, providing access to higher education to historically excluded student populations. So I really appreciate you. And I hope at UNM we find additional ways to value that work.
Thanks, Chris. And yeah, to the question about yeah, many of the classes are they're in the UNM catalog, and so they transfer directly. So these are 1,000 and 2,000 level classes that transfer directly to the main campus and other institutions, four-year institutions around the state. But thanks again for those thoughtful comments, Chris.
Any other comments? All right, we have one more of the council reports, the Social Justice Ad Hoc Committee. Justin.
Thanks, Roberta. Thanks, Ops Committee, and thanks, Faculty Senate, for having me speak this evening. I'll try to keep it short and sweet. Let me share my screen. I presume you can see that? Okay. All right, so I'm the chair of the Ad Hoc FS Social Justice Committee, and we've been working on a few things this fall I wanted to bring to your attention. 3 initiatives, and thanks to Michelle for animating my slideshow. Look at that. Number 1 is a list of recommended characteristics for the next UNM leaders. I'll get to each of these in a moment. I'm just going to list them first. Secondly, we are an endorsee and supporter of the Academic Freedom Working Group's open letter on academic freedom, which I'll again address in a moment. And lastly, we have co-drafted a Faculty Senate joint resolution with CNM in the wake of our alliance with the MADC resolutions that we both passed last year. And we're hoping to vote on this resolution in January 2026. So I'm looking to bring that to your attention now so that you can think, so that you can obsess on it over the winter break. So the first initiative, this semester, we created a list of recommended characteristics for UNM leadership candidate searches. Obviously, the motivation for this is that the provost and presidential searches are ongoing, and we wanted to make sure that faculty interests were being represented, and not only faculty, but staff, student, just generally interests of everybody were being considered. So we came up with a list of 6 categories centered on the traits that include upholding UNM goals and values, also holding UNM leadership accountable to the many communities that make up our Lobo PAC. The 6 categories, which also have subcategories, are visionary stewardship of academic excellence in long-term planning, academic integrity and vision, transparent and relational leadership, organizational and operational effectiveness, strong commitment to faculty development, and commitment to equity, advocacy, and visionary resource stewardship. I will note that the HSC Council leadership will be considering our list when drafting candidate interview questions. We have also shared this list with the folks that are running or organizing those candidate processes. Number 2, the Academic Freedom Working Group's open letter. This is an ad hoc group, and they came together this summer to consider the attacks on higher ed and academic freedom, and wanted to kind of organize campus around addressing some of these issues to stay ahead of whatever threats might be coming down the pipe. So one of the first things they did was to craft an open letter This letter has been circulating for a couple weeks now, and a number of important organizations have signed on to it, including UA-UNM, the Grad Workers, UNM for Justice in Palestine, the Social Justice Committee, and most recently the UNM Valencia Faculty Assembly. It's also been published in the Daily Lobo. And I'm not going to read you the letter. I'll give you an opportunity in the chat to see it, or one of my colleagues in the Social Justice Committee will be posting that for you. But in brief, here are 2 paragraphs that cover some of the keys to this letter, kind of the intention. These are the paragraphs. I'm not going to read them in the spirit of time, but these are the asks we make to the UNM administration in this letter. One, we urge UNM admin to refuse to provide the names of or information about UNM faculty, students, or staff to federal requests unless compelled to do so by the courts. CU Berkeley is one of the latest examples of a list of names being turned over, and that's a scary precedent that we want to get assurance from our administration won't happen here. Secondly, we want administration to commit to a participatory process with faculty and students to revise free speech policies, especially the restrictive time, place, and manner policies that were altered in the wake of the student encampments. And third, we want to assure that academic freedom policies in the graduate and faculty worker collective bargaining agreements are protected, and that we bolster academic freedom by strengthening paths to permanency for part-time faculty. So this is available in the chat. If you are interested as an individual in signing the letter, there's a petition available, hopefully in the chat already. If you're interested in your department or a committee that you belong to endorsing the letter, you can reach out to me and we can work on getting that to happen. Lastly, and in this regard, most importantly, because we're going to be bringing this to you in January, we have crafted a joint resolution opposing the Compact for Academic Excellence in Higher Ed. This was a resolution co-written by CNM and UNM faculty senators. As far as I know, this might be the first of its kind in terms of cross-campus collaboration, which we're trying to model in the wake of the MADC resolution passing. We want to build an alliance of faculty at campuses across New Mexico who are organized and committed in principle to protecting and defending each other's campuses and fighting for common causes. In spring 2025, we both passed the MADC resolution. The Compact for Academic Excellence is kind of like an anti-MADC compact. It's inspired by Project 2025 and promoted by Trump and his administration, essentially making access to federal funding conditional on the acceptance of government-prescribed institutional policies that harm faculty and students. We're talking dangerous far-right ideological demands being made in exchange for money. An informal offer to join the compact has been made to all campuses nationwide, which is why we want to pass a resolution that assures that we're going to be rejecting this compact down the road if it comes to a point of discussion amongst administrators. And as I said, this is an example of intra-campus coordination that we want to model to inspire other campuses to join our MADC regional alliance. Regarding the compact, for those who have not read it, we'll provide links to that. But generally speaking, this compact is dangerous to higher ed. The American Association of University Professors and AFT have called on all colleges and universities to reject it, calling it preferential treatment in exchange for allegiance to a partisan political or ideological agenda. And our resolution, the be it resolved part, says that we as faculty senates firmly oppose this compact and call on campus administrators to do so as well. So our big ask for you right now is that we urge you to review the resolution, which will be linked in the chat before our meeting in January. And we are hoping, if all goes well, that CNM and UNM faculty senates will vote on it in late January at roughly the same time, and we can use that as a kind of energizing, organizing moment for both campuses. So that is my spiel. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. And if not, thanks for listening, and happy holidays.
Well, I would like to start by saying that was amazing coordination between two people with the links coming up as you spoke. So kudos for an amazing job getting that to flow so smoothly. But does anyone have questions?
All right. I don't see any questions.
Well, you got one hand raised. One of your, I think Michelle, I think she's.
Oh, hi, Michelle.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, so silly, right, that I have this question here, but I actually, I wanted to, because I heard how you mentioned that possibly whole departments could sign on. And so I was curious, and maybe, I don't know if Chris might be the person to speak to this, but how that might go as far as the work that's being done on like departmental messaging. I know that there's like a committee right now, right, that's overseeing like how things are handled when departments make a statement. And I'm wondering if this would like fall within that, and if there's anything that we should be aware of. So not necessarily a question to you specifically, Justin, unless you know, unless you can help fill in the parts that I'm missing.
I don't know the answer to that, but it is a good question, and it could be helpful to know an answer if anybody has one.
Michelle, could you just say one more time the question you have about what Justin just presented and the departmental statement guidelines?
Yes, because Chris, you're working on that, right? The departmental statement guidelines. So I was just wondering that if a whole department decides to sign off or to sign on to the letter, for example, do you have any like recommendations or cautions or anything that we need to be thinking about if we try to do that per the work that you're doing?
So I'll just say really quickly, so those online know, if you recall, we mentioned that there's a group working, as Michelle mentioned, there's a group of working on departmental statement guidelines, and I shared those in the chat at one of our last meeting where we met face to face. And so there's a working group working on those guidelines. Because we're working on them, I can't exactly answer your question in terms of what they're going to say, but I can tell you what aspects are being considered. So, for example, the guidelines that we are looking to as a model from the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, they talk about internal versus external issues. So when a department makes a statement, it should be clearly related to the work that they do within the department. It should be related to one's discipline. It also says that by getting a department to sign on, it's not just faculty, but it's also staff and students. So when a department is making a statement, it should reflect the whole department community, which, I think we could all acknowledge that could be tough. Or even just to get all faculty in a department to agree can be tough. What we're looking into as a group, though, is all of this perhaps, and there's more detail. You can look back at the guidelines I sent out also via email during that last meeting. All of this could be moot based on the fact that department websites are the property of the University of New Mexico. And so when a department posts something to their website, it can be interpreted that it's not just reflective of the department, but of the institution as a whole. So that's another conversation that we're having. Yeah, there was one more thing I was going to mention and it just left my mind. But so it's all of that is to say it's complicated. And so as the group, we're trying to work. Oh, I remember what it was. So for example, this isn't, well, there is a group of faculty. We are part of the UNM Sanctuary Campus group. We originated during President Trump's, sorry, I said his name out loud, first administration, and through that group, we do a lot sort of behind the scenes, organizing departments and how to respond to issues around immigration, et cetera, how to support our students, et cetera, et cetera. But we use a non-UNM listserv for that. We use a non-UNM website for that, So those are just two examples of how we address something that we might not receive support from a whole department, for example. All of this is to say, Michelle, I cannot say what it would mean for what you all are doing in the Faculty Senate Social Justice Committee. And I'll also say that when the working group is done drafting these guidelines, we are going to bring it to the Faculty Senate Operations Committee, that Roberta oversees. And then when it makes it past the Operations Committee, we would bring it to the Faculty Senate to vote to endorse or not. So, senators, you all will have a chance to weigh in on that draft and provide feedback and feedback prior to the vote, obviously. Sorry for that long, I wasn't prepared to talk about this, so sorry for that long response, Michelle.
Wait, and I think my takeaway is get your department to sign on before the guidelines come out. Maybe. Maybe.
There you go. Natalie?
I just wanted to kind of follow up by clarifying. I mean, as far as I understand, and someone please correct me if I'm wrong, there's nothing preventing individual faculty from signing petitions or letters. And so no one should feel like they can't do that simply because they work here.
Yeah, Nicole just reminded me, sorry, that in addition to the guidelines at the, there'll be recommendations will be included. And so it'll be things like, if you or your colleagues want to create a statement, then signatories is one way to do it so that it's very clear about who's being represented, by the statement. I mean, we've all seen versions of something in the last few years, but so there will be recommendations. If you can't do a department statement, what can you do? And then there will be some recommendations for that.
But yes, Natalie, anybody can sign as an individual. So, and there are links to everything, including the petition and the open letter that's in the chat. So if you don't have time to see all these links now, you can download the chat and then you'll have time to look at those going forward. The resolution's important, so it really is important for everybody to read it in advance. And I know there's a tendency for us all to think we're busy and we don't need, you need to. I mean, these are important issues, and right as Justin was saying at the last minute, he would do this presentation for us and we were going back and forth about what we needed in the time and everything. I'd forwarded him an email about a faculty member at the University of Arizona that was having their tenure, trying to pull their tenure because of something they had said. So it's not a small issue, and people need to take it serious. So that being said, any last questions for Justin? Okay, hopefully soon enough it'll be an official committee. The last public comment. Did we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, that being said, we are at 2 minutes till, so we once again did not get to the breakout groups. We need to block off time and not let anybody impinge on it in January for the breakout groups. So we need to give at least 30 minutes for that, and we will punt people to February if we have to, so that we have time for that and time for a robust discussion about the resolution. And with that said, it's helpful to familiarize oneself with academic freedom versus freedom of speech as citizens. Yes, it is. Look at the handbook and the AAUP guidelines. So I always tell faculty that I work with that they need to know both and treat them almost as like a religious document you need to learn and keep close by. But follow it a little better than we do most of those. So at any rate, that being said, we're at time. Can I get an emotion to adjourn?
I move.
I second.
Is there anyone opposing this?
No.
All right, hearing none, we're adjourned. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy a long weekend. So Nancy, are you staying?